Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
I'm not camping outside a store for Black Friday or any Friday.
We're with Kat. That's why our Ace Black Friday sale lasts all day. Just print out our online coupon, bring it in, and save 50% on an item under $30.
Ace is the place with Black Friday offers all day. Go ahead and sleep in.
Print out our coupon at acehardware.com and stop by Ace this Friday for 50% off one regular priced item under $30. Offer valid on November 25th only at participating stores. Limit 1. Exclusions apply. See coupon.
You never know what's going to happen.
Exclusively.
What is this?
77 WABC.
Will you accept the results of the election?
I will look at it at the time because, frankly, this whole thing is rigged. Even the media, every day I turn on the news and all of the newscasters are making me look so bad.
And how are we doing that?
By taking all of the things I say and all of the things I do and putting them on TV.
That's funny. That's funny, right? That's Alec Baldwin on Saturday Night Live. Back on the Bernie and Sid show on WABC. And let's get right to it. Our guest.
Yes.
He writes for Breitbart. His name is David Horowitz. He also has a new book out. Actually, it's a continuation. It's The Black Book of the American Left, Volume 7, The Left in Power, Clinton to Obama. Good morning, David Horowitz.
Good morning.
How are you? How about the next book, 8 Clinton to Obama, back to Clinton?
Yeah, it will be an incredible tragedy for this country if that's the case.
Well, it may be, but it won't be fiction, I'll tell you that.
No, well, my book isn't fiction either.
No, Sid thinks it's a foregone conclusion,
it's over.
David. Before we get to your book, let's stay with that. What do you think the chances are at this point, 2 weeks and a day out?
Well, I don't know because I don't trust the polls, and the entire election will turn on turnout, which is very difficult for pollsters to gauge. But it looks. Look, I don't think there's ever been an election like this where you have the media as part of the Democratic Party.
You're right.
Alec Baldwin, I don't find that too funny because all it is covering up for the destruction of the fourth estate in the country.
I will tell you this, with regards to that Saturday Night Live piece, they were way harsher on Donald Trump than they were on Hillary Clinton.
Well,
There's no doubt about it.
Alec is a liberal.
I mean, come on now. These people are open borders, anti-war on terror communists.
You're right about that.
Distribution of income. Come on.
Well, I'm going to ask you to be very honest. Go ahead, David. I'm going to ask you to be very honest with me here for a second. When you say that you don't trust the polls, I'm going to ask you to be very honest, David. If, in fact, today Donald Trump was up 6 points instead of down 10 or 12, would you be saying the same thing?
No, I think he'd be up, 20.
But would you be saying the same thing?
I don't know. Look, I mean, I'm old enough and been through enough elections to know that nobody really knows what's going to happen. And I certainly don't. So I'm not going to predict.
Okay.
Hillary she's got a lead. The Democrats, because of their lock on California and New York, and it's partly because they've had a kept media for 20, 30 years. The leftists taken over our school systems. That's why the millennials are so far left.
And ignorant.
They're being, what's the curriculum today in the schools? It's white people are bad, America's bad, rich people are bad.
Yeah.
That's the curriculum. And what do you expect out of that?
The Hate America curriculum. Now, David Horowitz, the book is The Black Book of the American Left, Volume 7, The Left in Power, Clinton to Obama. You, David Horowitz, you used to be a bust-out communist back in the 60s. And you got religion, and now that's what your books are about, essentially.
Right.
Tell us more.
That's how I know what the Democratic Party has become. It's become the party of my parents, who were card-carrying communists. My mother was also a registered Democrat.
Okay, so Hillary Clinton, a lot of people, they make the claim, and sometimes I do, Hillary Clinton is not much different than, say, Jeb Bush on a lot of issues, open borders.
That's ridiculous. You think Jeb Bush, in a presidential debate viewed by whatever it was, 30 or 40 million people, would disclose one of our top secrets about our nuclear codes and the launch times for our nuclear weapons. She is so unbelievably arrogant. She has such contempt for the American people, for our national security. She's lied for a year about that the server is itself a violation of the Espionage Act.
She's a greedy, lying crook.
FBI.
I agree.
She's a corrupt, greedy.
That's right.
It boggles my mind that people can think that she gets elected, it's going to be some kind of a victory for women.
You're right, but you know the argument, David, that she and the establishment Republicans, they're for open borders, essentially for cheap labor to come in. They're interventionists. They're for these lousy free trade deals. They're
destroying what the left doesn't understand is that culture is the most important determining factor in a society's prosperity, health, civility, and so forth. It's culture that makes America great. And they have been on a 40-year campaign to destroy American culture, to destroy the idea of individual rights and that we judge individuals on their merits. They are racist. Why can't Republicans use the word racist to describe the Democrats? They have introduced racial categories into everything. They want whether they call it underrepresented. If you're underrepresented, it's not because of your something that you did. It's because of racism. This invisible racism. I think the smartest thing that Trump has said and the most important, and I don't think whatever happens in this election, the Republican Party is never going to be the same, and that's a really good thing. What he said was Hillary has tremendous hatred in her heart. Tremendous hatred in her heart. That's what the Alec Baldwins, the Saturday Night Live, they run on hatred. And you remember what he was talking about was her basket of the deplorables, right, which she identified as racist, sexist, homophobes, Islamophobes, xenophobes. There isn't a conservative listening to this show who hasn't been in an argument with a so-called liberal, who hasn't been called a racist, a sexist, a homophobe. That's what the Democrats do. They run on hate. It is a party of hate.
Well, let me ask you this.
For Donald Trump for breaking the politically correct bubble.
Let me ask you this, David.
Agreed.
You're obviously a very, very brilliant man, great author, a very smart guy. I'm not nearly as smart as you are. I'll be the first to admit that, but I'm no dummy. I've got 2 little kids who I love more than anything else on this earth, and I'm worried about their safety. Why is it then that me and millions of others are probably going to put Hillary Clinton in the White House in 2 weeks? Are we stupid? Are we ignorant? I mean, if Donald Trump is so brilliant and has all the answers, David Horowitz, why in all likelihood is he going to get killed in 2 weeks?
We have a one-party press, a one-party educational system, where almost at the level of getting a one-party judiciary, all our cultural institutions are dominated by a totalitarian left. That is, it wants to suppress the other side. There's even a really good book by Kirsten Powers, who happens to be a liberal and a Democrat, called The Silencing, How the Left Progressives Are Killing Free Speech in this Country. And that's what the attack on voter IDs. They're destroying our electoral system. They're destroying the cultural values that have made this country what it is. But the reason that they win so much is because they've loaded I think it was Andrew Breitbart who said that politics is downstream from culture, and he might have taken it from somebody else, a Marxist named Antonio Gramsci. That's the culture that determines the politics. You have people. I mean, I have relatives very close to me who didn't know that that it was Hillary and Obama that orchestrated the violence at the Trump rallies, and then blamed it on Trump because they weren't even aware of the O'Keefe videos. Right. So if you're not listening to conservative talk radio or watching some of the commentators on Fox.
But David, I do listen to conservative radio. We're a conservative station for the most part here. I watch Fox. Okay, I don't get my answers from Chuck Todd or Chris Matthews, and I'd never vote for Trump because, in my estimation, I've never seen a less prepared, more ignorant candidate and I admit she's flawed. I can't stand Hillary Clinton. But at the end of the day, is any of you folks, including you, David, going to hold Donald Trump responsible or accountable if he loses?
Of course. I would tell you.
Doesn't sound that way. It sounds like the media, you're blaming everybody else.
His chief advisor is probably the best man in the United States Senate, which is Jeff Sessions. Although Sessions is not an out-front character, so a lot of people don't know him. His chief of policy is a protege of mine, brilliant young man who is Sessions' right hand. He will get the advice that he needs.
Right.
What you want from a president is judgment. And Trump, for whatever you can say about him, he has built an empire. He lost it. When lost $1 billion, rebuilt it. He's been on television he's been a public figure for 30 years, so you pretty well know what he's about. So that's the way I would try. And look at the family. I mean, anybody who's raised kids knows how difficult it is to turn out gems like he has.
Right, especially with all that money. You're absolutely right about that.
Oh, yeah. No, I've done biographies of rich families. It's devastation city. You can't get them motivated. I mean, it's just, and having a parent with a huge public name, like look at the Kennedys and their kids, for crying out loud.
Right. Talking to David Horowitz from Breitbart, the author of the book, The Black Book of the American Left, Volume 7, The Left in Power, Clinton to Obama. Very interesting read, the latest in a series. And now, David Horowitz, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to tell them where to get it. You can get it. I have a website called Black Book of the American Left. My website is Front Page. I actually write for FrontPageMagazine.com.
Okay.
I have an article today on Front Page Magazine about how the left uses race as a weapon. This Black Lives Matter phenomenon is really frightening. The Democratic donors have put $100 million behind a racist organization that has incited the murder of police.
That perpetuates false narratives. You're absolutely right. Demonizes cops and forces the cops not to be proactive in the inner cities, causing people in the inner cities to die and get hurt.
Exactly.
Hey, and let me get to Sid's point. Donald Trump
is... You can get it at Amazon.com.
Amazon.com is The Black Book of the American Left, Volume 7. Now, to Trump, at Sid's point, Trump a narcissist, his depth of knowledge is lacking in some cases. He's rough around the edges. Now, wait a second.
Isn't a narcissist?
Well, okay, but that's my point. But on the issues, he's absolutely 100% right on open borders. I would say even with immigration and. Both from south of the border and the Syrian refugees, for example, they look at that issue from the standpoint of the immigrants, the refugees, whereas Donald Trump looks at these issues from the standpoint of the American worker and the citizen and how it affects them and how they will compete
that will destroy. Look, we have epidemic diseases. We wiped out tuberculosis years ago. Now it's coming in with the Somalis and the South Americans and who knows what other diseases. It's part of what the immigration process was about.
It's suicide.
Yes, it's suicide.
And it's stupid and it's naive, and he's right on that issue, even though he's rough around the edges and he doesn't have a depth of knowledge, he's a narcissist. He's right on the issue, and I think the American people would agree with that if we could ever talk about these issues without talking about all these distractions that are out there about, Billy Bush,
I like the way you always generalize the American people when talking about Donald Trump, because if it was the American people and we were sick and tired of Obama, Clinton, the way this country was going, he would win in 2 weeks, despite being rough around the edges on the media. But, of course, he's not going to win, and you guys will blame the media and like David is doing, the schools, and Donald Trump will walk away this genius with all the answers who didn't have a chance to show it. And that's what's going to happen.
And
right?
What's your question for David Horowitz?
There is no question. I'm going to laugh in 2 weeks when it's over.
That's so much hot air. Look,
that's hot air.
In Seattle, they had 2,000 teachers wearing Black Lives Matter T-shirts. They indoctrinate these kids from the first grade. If you couldn't have a Democrat, couldn't get elected if they threw the kind of garbage at them that they throw at Trump. I mean, it's mind-boggling. All these women. When has the American press, aside from maybe the National Enquirer, taken an accusation by a woman for an incident that happened 10, 20, 30 years ago where nobody else is a witness, where nothing was reported, and put it on the front pages, like of the New York Times?
Right.
This is the dirtiest campaign in the history of American politics.
And they won't even go near somebody like Juanita Broderick.
So most people actually hate politics. They don't pay attention. And that's a good thing because they're too busy enjoying themselves or, keeping house and home together. So most people they have only the slightest sense of what's going on.
Yeah, idiots.
Hillary Clinton is a traitor. She betrayed this country. She got these guys killed in Benghazi.
Oh,
Hillary lied.
Let's stop. She didn't get anybody killed. Stop it.
She
lied down. God, you got to calm down.
She lied and people died, David. You tell them. You're absolutely right about that. Listen, our guest is David Horowitz, and we are out of time, Sid.
No, it was great. I loved him.
Yeah, he's
been a pleasure, guys.
Very intelligent.
You too,
hey,
Dave.
by the way, how are you and Bill Kristol getting along these days?
That's funny.
I mean, he's an idiot, and so many Republicans have disgraced themselves in this election.
You know what? I don't care who you like. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care what you're writing about, David Horowitz. I love you. In my book, you're all right, pal.
Well, thank you.
So the Black
I've got another show coming in.
Yeah, I can hear that. All right. Thank you.
Well, take him down. The Black Book of the American Left, Volume 7. The Left in Power, Clinton to Obama. You get it at Amazon.com.
You get Amazon. But what's funny about him is here he is, yelling and screaming about how the Democrats are built on a party of hate, and every other person is an idiot, is no good, is a racist, is this. I love how people deflect to the other side when, in fact, what they're spewing, quite frankly, is hatred.
When you get called a racist for expressing your opinion, you would resent it yourself, and I think that's where his anger originates from. I would say, and justifiably.
He's an angry guy. Stop.
You love him. 1-800-848-9222. Bernie and Sid back after this.